Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om, I bow to the Lord Vasudeva. Hello, friends. I'm going to read you several slokas now from the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 59, 60, and 61. The man who merely abstains from sense enjoyments may forget them for a time, but the taste for them will linger. That person, however, who beholds the Supreme Spirit loses the taste for anything but the infinite. 60. O son of Kunti, the power of dispassion, Arjuna, even the wise man, devoted to self-control, may sometimes be swept away by the turbulent senses. And 61. He who, having subjugated his senses, becomes united with me, remains engrossed in the infinite self, knowing it as the supremely relishable. Only mastery of the senses can bestow the steadfastness of true wisdom. Well, this is what happens, that if a person is going to practice what we've been learning so far, and this is why Krishna is talking about yoga, that person, he may be dispassionate, he may be calm, and nothing may touch him, but as long as he's still identified with the senses, even wise people sometimes get swept away by some sudden samskar or tendency from the past. A person may be going along very peacefully, and suddenly somebody tells him that with what he knows, he can become one of the great scientists in this world. And suddenly he finds this samskar, this seed of identity, of attachment, springing up within him, and he gets swept away, and it's hard to struggle against that current. So you will see that it's never enough to think that you have overcome things simply because they don't interest you now. It's got to go deeper than that. You've got to master the senses by withdrawing the energy from the senses. This is what yoga accomplishes. But if Arjuna, he says, even the wise man devoted to self-control may sometimes be swept away by the turbulent senses. This is why devotion is so important, because if you love something very much, then lesser loves, lesser joys won't touch you. He who, having subjugated his senses, becomes united with me, becomes engrossed in the infinite self, knowing it as supremely relishable, Rasha. Only mastery of the senses can bestow the steadfastness of true wisdom. And so it is that even saints fall from the path. And how many times, I know Yogananda one time said to me, all those who are close to me have been saints in the past. And I said to him, thinking of myself, well, what about me? I didn't consider myself that saintly. And he said, well, some of them are fallen saints. Then I said to him, well, I was thinking of myself, sir. He said, it's good to have neither a superiority nor an inferiority complex. Just go on. You are what you are before your conscience and God. Don't label it. But he was saying that some of them are fallen saints, and this is the truth, that you can go and be, you can even be with a great master and go for quite a while, and then suddenly some desire comes in, some ego wish comes in, and you will be swept away, as he said to Jose Cuaron in Mexico City, the center leader of his work there. I lost touch with you for several lives, but now I've found you again, and I won't lose touch with you again. But you can, even if you become a saint, until you have been able to control your senses, until you've been able to withdraw your energy from the senses, and in fact, until you can attain that state of oneness with God, when you realize that the ego is just a figment of your own imagination, that it is only the infinite self identified for a while with certain outward tendencies, but you are a child of God. Everyone is a child of God. And when you've realized that your ego has no reality except as a temporary manifestation. When you go into him and see that nothing can touch you anymore, then you have attained the state of Jivan Mukta, freed while living. But until then, don't take for granted the power of Maya, because it is very strong, and even the wise become fooled by it. Always keep the attitude of non-attachment, but really to be non-attached means to leave your body behind you, leave it in samadhi, and become one with the infinite. There are two types of samadhi. The first is sabhikalpa, in which the soul goes into the infinite and feels one with the infinite, but it's still the ego, I, the infinite, but nevertheless still real John Smith, am experiencing this. But when you come out of your meditation, you're John Smith again. And so even at that point you can fall, and a number of people do fall. My guru said that, well, maybe on YouTube, I shouldn't tell who did. Perhaps that would be impolitic. But he said that it does happen, and I think that it has happened to me in my past. But I have good reason to think that. But the thing is that every time you fall, get up and try again. Sooner or later, remember, and this is the question that Arjuna asks Krishna in one of these slokas, what happens when a yogi falls? Won't he lose even more, having left the supreme good? Won't he be even more thrown out of heaven? Those are not his words, but mine. And Arjuna and Krishna says, no effort, no right effort is ever lost. The first thing, and this is why they say in the scriptures, Khandamati sajana sangatireka bhavati bhavanava taram noke. Even a moment in the company of a saint will be your raft over the ocean of delusion. There was one time when a worldly person began to express some interest in the spiritual path, and Master had him come and looked at him. He took his face like this and looked into his eyes very deeply. And the man came out just sort of dazed. But Master had awakened that desire in him for God. And ever after, I knew the man, and years later, he was still seeking God in his way. He had a ways to go. But the most important thing is to develop the desire for God. Once that desire has been awakened in the soul, it too must be satisfied. All desires have to be fulfilled in the end. And that is a desire too, but it's a good desire. So Yogananda said that it takes very, very good karma even to want to know God. But once you have that desire, it will never leave you. And any step you take in the direction of fulfilling that desire will be a good karma that will remain with you forever. And it will always nag you, it will keep you unhappy with anything less. And sooner or later, you will have to turn back to him and merge in him. So when God really gets a hold of you, you may struggle. Most people do. But sooner or later, you've got to go back to him. Nothing else will give you what you want. And people who don't know that, they're wandering in bewilderment, knowing, why is there so much suffering? Why is there so much pain? But those who want God, they know, no, this is the only way out. Once I know him, I will be free. But until I know him, I am subject to all the ills that flesh is heir to. Joy to you, friends.